01. I spent 10 years with Victoria Ashwood, taking her from an unknown nobody and building her into the famous actress she is today. But 7 days before our wedding, the ex-boyfriend who had once abandoned her came back. The news of their reunion topped the trending charts that night. When people asked her about me, she scoffed. He was just a substitute, not even worth comparing to Ethan's little toe. Did he really think he could take his place? Later, I pulled all her resources and went back to being the wealthy heir I was born as. Then I heard Victoria had fallen apart and was desperately looking for me everywhere. 1. It was a week before the wedding. I was in a jewelry store picking out a diamond ring when I happened to scroll past a post from Victoria's ex-boyfriend on social media. The photo showed the two of them locked in a passionate kiss. The caption read, "After everything, it's still you." In less than a minute, Victoria Ashwood rekindles old flame shot to the top of the trending list. The comments section exploded with frantic fans. Soon after, Victoria's official account posted an update too, "Indy and wait for you forever." It instantly garnered hundreds of thousands of shares and comments. Everyone was congratulating the couple on getting back together. Everyone except me. Simple reason, I was Victoria Ashwood's fiancé. The designer noticed me staring blankly at my phone and asked softly, "But Mr. Clark, you don't like this diamond?" I looked at the brilliant diamond ring on the display stand. It was custom made to Victoria's preferred style. I had really liked this ring. I was just about to take a picture to show Victoria how it looked when I saw this absurd news instead. I forced a smile. "It's fine." I walked over to the seating area to call Victoria. The call was rejected. Immediately after, I received a text from her. "She's filming." Yes, she had joined a new film crew 2 days ago. She said it was a major production requiring closed-set filming. Now it seemed she was indeed focusing on her filming. An hour later, Victoria finally called back. Her voice was soft. "Sincere, what's wrong?" Judging by her tone, she clearly didn't know yet that her affair with her ex was already public knowledge. I've known Victoria for 10 years, from when I was 20 until I turned 30. I watched her grow from an unknown extra into the highly sought-after star she is today. Though not yet an A-lister, she was certainly a well-known figure in the industry. We met at an industry party. Back then, I had no power or influence. I was being harassed and humiliated while trying to secure investment, and she stepped forward to defend me. At that time, she was just an aspiring actress, new to the entertainment world. That one act of kindness made me dedicate 10 years to being by her side. For 10 years, whether pulling all-nighters for negotiations or accompanying her to schmooze investors, even when other companies offered me huge sums to poach me, I never considered leaving. From being her initial investor, I became her manager and fiancé. Our romance started by accident. 3 years ago, after an awards ceremony, we both drank too much. The next morning, we woke up in a messy room and she said, "Sincere, let's be together." I can't recall my exact feelings at that moment, but I was definitely happy. After all, I'd had a crush on her for 7 whole years. Falling for her felt natural. She possessed an unforgettable beauty. Over the years, we watched sunrises together on studio lots, counted stars on prop chairs on set, and weathered online attacks and malicious slander together. 2. I remember one time trying to secure a role for her. I stayed out drinking with a director until late at night. On the way back, we passed by the plaza near a major studio complex. Correction from original likely meant a different scene. On the way back, we passed one of the most expensive penthouse apartments in the city. She grabbed my hand and pulled me up to the observation deck. Tipsy, she leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "Sincere, one day I'll be the brightest star." That penthouse was the kind only top award-winning actors could afford. I teased her, "To stop daydreaming. It's late, time to go home and rest." She suddenly looked up, her eyes fixed on me, shining intensely. "When that day comes," she whispered, "I want the whole world to know you're the most important person to me." Her eyes reflected the glittering city lights, her smile outshining the neons around us. Every word she spoke was filled with sincerity. In that instant, my heart was completely captured. The night we confirmed our relationship was at the celebration party for her winning the Most Popular Actress award. Now, she was already a top-tier star in the entertainment industry, and she had fulfilled her promise of making me her exclusive manager. It took a full decade to go from obscurity to the pinnacle of the film world. At the celebration party, she held my arm in front of the cameras and announced, "Insincere Clark is the most important person to me. I wouldn't be here today without him. I want to share this award with him." While perhaps a bit embellished, it wasn't entirely flattery. During those difficult years, whenever she wanted to give up, I was always there, encouraging and supporting her. Her decision to transition into starring in popular dramas was a move I carefully orchestrated. From casting auditions to negotiating deals to crafting her public image, my input was crucial every step of the way. After the party, she was ecstatic, pulling me to the hotel rooftop to stargaze and chat excitedly about future plans. Without realizing it, we ended up falling asleep in each other's arms until morning. When I woke up the next day and heard her say she wanted to give me commitment, I felt a little apprehensive. She saw through my hesitation and said softly, "Sincere, all these years, you're the only one who's always been by my side. There's only room for you in my heart." We had been dating for 3 years. I knew she had a first love named Ethan Vance. They were university classmates. He was an underground rapper, a young, reckless love that lasted 3 years. He chose to go abroad for his music dream. Victoria didn't want to go with him, and they broke up amicably. In fact, Victoria entering the entertainment industry was partly inspired by Ethan's pursuit of his dream. That day on the rooftop while drinking, she had mused, "If I had gone abroad with Ethan back then, I might be singing in bars now." There was a hint of nostalgia in her voice, but mostly acceptance. Therefore, I never considered him a threat. Even when Ethan returned to the country 6 months ago to pursue his career and even followed my social media account, I never mentioned it to Victoria. I thought Victoria and I had developed deep feelings over time. Besides, who would still be hung up on such a distant first love? 3. Reality hit me like a ton of bricks. I've always been a pragmatist. During the call, I didn't confront her. Instead, I sent her the picture of the custom wedding ring. She replied briefly, "If Sincere picked it, it must be perfect." Seeing through her perfunctory response, I immediately booked the fastest flight to the film location. Upon arrival, I opened my phone, and Ethan's latest post caught my eye. "With the one I love." Coincidentally, I recognized the place instantly. It was a favorite date spot from the early days of my relationship with Victoria. When I got there, I witnessed Victoria personally feeding Ethan ice cream. He playfully bit the spoon, making her giggle. They were sitting on a bench near the carousel, clearly visible from a distance. Victoria wore a purple dress, and Ethan wore a hoodie in the same color scheme, clearly a carefully chosen couple's outfit. I remembered Victoria once saying she hated matching outfits, finding them too contrived. Now I finally understood. It wasn't that she found them contrived, it was that I wasn't the person worth letting her guard down for. I leaned against a tree by the roadside, lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and dialed her number. She glanced at the caller ID, rejected the call immediately, and sent a text, "Filming." At that moment I clenched my fists, nails digging deep into my palms. A surge of anger churned in my chest, with nowhere to vent. It took me a long time to regain my composure. Looking at the brand new wedding ring on my hand, I didn't hesitate to toss it into a nearby trash can. Then, I sent the photos of their date to Victoria. "When you're done filming, let's talk about the divorce." About 15 minutes passed before Victoria saw the message, because during that time, Ethan was taking pictures with her. In that short period, they laughed and talked, incredibly sweet together. The scene perfectly documented their treacherous affair. In fact, Victoria and I had gotten legally married a month ago. The wedding ceremony was scheduled for next week. After seeing the photos I sent, Victoria frantically looked around for me. She quickly stood up and walked towards me. Ethan, confused, followed her gaze, saw me, and a triumphant smirk appeared on his lips as he also walked over. "Are you really going to break my heart like this, Victoria?" After years navigating the entertainment industry, enduring its open rivalries and hidden schemes, what storms hadn't I weathered? I could always handle things calmly and adeptly. I considered myself top-notch in both strategy and composure. But witnessing my own wife canoodling with her old flame in matching outfits, I nearly lost control, overcome by the urge to lash out. Only then did Victoria realize Ethan had followed her. She turned to him. "Ethan, you should go first." Ethan refused to leave, provoking me further. "Sincere, Victoria was just talking to me about you. Don't get the wrong idea, we just bumped into each other here by chance. And I'd rather it have been a coincidence, but as you left you had to lick the ice cream spoon Victoria fed you, placing it near your lips as if making a statement. Afraid I wouldn't notice the intimacy between you?" I closed my eyes briefly, unwilling to waste words on this unprofessional underground rapper. I feared dragging myself down to his level. I coldly told Victoria, "Make him disappear within 1 minute." 02. But Ethan continued his provocation. "Sincere, aren't you being unreasonable? You don't even have basic manners. You're accusing us without even hearing an explanation." "Manners? My ass," I sneered. "Untrue. I can't compare to a nobody like you who relies on clout chasing and publicity stunts." "Ethan, me? Want me to contact some reality shows to broadcast your current pathetic state live? Stop being an eyesore here." Ethan's face turned livid, but he finally left. After Ethan left, Victoria and I went back into the amusement park's couple-themed cafe. I was starving, too lazy to find another place. The betrayal could be dealt with later. My body couldn't wait. These years worrying excessively about her career had given me stomach problems. I couldn't afford to be hungry. The pain would start immediately. Victoria wanted to go somewhere else, probably feeling the location was inappropriate, but I refused. The server at this cafe had just seen Victoria intimately sharing ice cream with Ethan, and now saw us walking in together. The look on their face was pure shock. I stared at the ice cream in front of Victoria, sipped my Americano, and asked, "Sis thing, do you think it still has any reason to exist right now?" Victoria. After a long pause, Victoria whispered, "Sincere." I immediately cut her off. "Don't say sickening things while I'm drinking coffee. My stomach is already weak. Think about how I wrecked my health for your career all these years." Victoria. Victoria lowered her head, biting her lip, her eyes slightly red. It took me 2 full hours to finish that cup of coffee. During that time, my mind raced, calculating how to proceed with a divorce. I was very clear-headed and rational now. One forgiveness leads to countless more. Better to make a clean break before more ties develop. The biggest issue between us was the division of assets. I had no say over her management contract, but I was a major shareholder in the studio we co-founded through my initial investment. 5. We didn't have any prenuptial agreement regarding assets when we married, but the new marriage laws wouldn't just grant me half her fortune based solely on the marriage certificate. But I didn't expect that while I was figuring out how to dissolve our partnership, Victoria was worrying about the wedding needing to proceed as planned in 7 days. She looked up, her eyes tearful, and said softly, "Sincere, please don't leave me." I snorted coldly, "And not leave? So what's the plan for the 3 of us? Are you planning to hold one of us in each hand on the wedding day?" I paused for a moment. "Ashaha. I really feel like my professional integrity makes me completely incompatible with people like you who do anything for selfish desires." "Victoria." After a long silence, I spoke. "And tell me, when did this start between you two? Before or after we got legally married?" Victoria pursed her lips, her voice barely audible. "Some we didn't get back together." "Sunil, really? Then what do you call this? Trying to add some drama to my life, stir up some publicity?" "Victoria." Tears welled up in Victoria's eyes, her voice choked with sobs. "Sincere, you're very emotional right now. Let's cool down for a couple of days and then talk, okay?" I agreed. Cooling down for 2 days was fine. I was indeed too angry right now. I was afraid I'd overlook some rights I should fight for and let her take advantage. On the way back to the hotel, Victoria kept her head down, wiping tears. She tried to speak several times, but bit her lip and ultimately said nothing. When we reached the hotel, she grabbed my sleeve, her voice thick with tears, saying she wanted to talk. I shook her hand off. "You think I'd waste another word on someone who betrayed me?" Tears streamed down her face. "And Sincere, can't you just listen to my explanation?" I clenched my fist, my voice ice cold. On this point, I really can't compare to Ethan. He doesn't have to do anything, just mumble some underground rap lyrics, give you a flirtatious look, and you act like a starstruck fan, abandoning even basic professional ethics. Me? You know me. For your career these years, what kind of situations haven't I dealt with? Victoria sobbed. "I'm sorry. Sincere." I turned, went into my room, and slammed the door shut. After the door closed, I slammed my fist against the wall, the pain sharp in my knuckles. Flashes of the 10 years we spent together flickered through my mind. When we first met, she shyly said, "Sincere, I believe you'll be my best partner." And drunk on the hotel rooftop, she leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "It's so good to have you here, Sincere." 6. When we first started dating, she said, "Sincere, I want to be the only one in your life." The day we got legally married, she said, "Sincere, let's face the rest of our lives together." And now, she had destroyed my 10-year dream. I clenched my fist, taking deep breaths to suppress the churning pain in my chest. The pain was like a dull knife sawing through flesh, eating away at my resolve inch by inch, making it hard to even stand. Just as I was leaning against the wall, a private message came from Ethan. He, Victoria, kept refusing to make our relationship public. That trending topic, do you know how I finally got her to agree? The thought that Victoria had slept with Ethan after we were legally married made my stomach churn violently with nausea. I threw up until I felt dizzy, ended up straight in the hospital. My stomach problems flared up again. This trip to catch her cheating had landed me in a hospital bed. Bad enough already. Who knew worse was still waiting for me? After I was admitted, Victoria, likely out of guilt, tenderly stayed by my bedside, taking care of me, though I didn't want to see her at all. She had put her phone on silent, but the screen kept lighting up. Probably Ethan, using different numbers to contact her. Since I came to the location, Victoria had stopped responding to him and hadn't gone to the recording studio. She even specifically deleted and blocked all of Ethan's contact methods, saying it was to prove her feelings for me. On the 3rd day in the hospital, the increasingly desperate Ethan messaged me again. He, "Sincere, I don't want to take Victoria from you. I just want to fulfill the promise we made as kids to create something together before your wedding. Why do you have to interfere?" He, "If I really wanted to get back together with Victoria, do you think you could stop me?" Seeing I wasn't responding, another message came half an hour later, "Unsincere, I didn't want to fight you for her, but from now on, I'm going to let you watch exactly how I win Victoria back." This wasn't an empty threat. Not long after, Victoria's phone screen lit up again. She glanced down at it, bit her lower lip, and her face instantly turned deathly pale. The person who hadn't left my side for days suddenly stood up. I looked at her. She gently sat back down in the chair and said softly, "Sincere, I have something to take care of. I'll be back quickly, okay?" I deliberately asked, "What if I say no?" Victoria, muttering an "I'm sorry," she left anyway. I immediately checked myself out of the hospital and went back to the company office. 7. These past 3 days, I'd thought things through. If you can't hold on to someone, don't force it. If a connection isn't meant to be, just let it go. As soon as I got back to the office, my business partner, Isabel Morgan, came to discuss work with me. Yes, managing the new talent at the company had always been my responsibility. Thinking about it carefully, maybe Victoria rekindled things with Ethan because I was focused on mentoring new artists and rarely visited her on set. But none of that mattered anymore. The fact they could get back together meant the feelings were mutual. Even if I locked Victoria by my side, what was meant to happen would eventually happen. Isabel tucked her hair behind her ear and asked softly, "Oh, so you workaholic, isn't your wedding coming up soon? Aren't you going to prepare?" The news of the cancellation hadn't been announced publicly yet. Since it was going to be canceled anyway, I told her first, "It's off." Isabel's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh my God, you and Victoria have been together for so many years. Don't tell me you broke up." "So what if we'd been together for years? It couldn't compete with one look from a first love." I didn't want to show too much emotion in front of Isabel. We were partners after all. Emotional displays weren't good for the company. I said, "Isn't saving on a wedding gift a good thing?" "Isabel." She pressed her lips together, a flicker of sympathy in her eyes. My partner of over 4 years had always been perceptive. Her favorite saying was, "Don't let emotions affect your work performance." Asking her to comfort a heartbroken man, she'd probably gently say, "Your work is the best medicine for healing." Seeing her hesitant look, I said, "Oh, don't worry about it here. Why don't you go talk to your dad about collaborating on the next project?" "Isabel, After seeing Isabel off, I took my parents out for dinner and told them the wedding was canceled, asking them to inform relatives who had received invitations. My parents were furious. Dad rolled up his sleeves, wanting to go confront Victoria on set. Mom's eyes welled up on the spot. Fortunately, my parents genuinely cared about me. Even knowing that canceling the wedding would lead to gossip among relatives, they firmly supported my decision to divorce. The next day, Victoria came to the office. I placed the divorce agreement in front of her, but she still adamantly refused to divorce. She even tried to persuade me to go ahead with the wedding. She said, "Sincere, the wedding is the day after tomorrow. Canceling now will embarrass both our families. My parents are old." I cut her off. "Victoria, dignity matters. Don't cheapen it." 8. "Victoria, I've already packed all your things and sent them back to your villa in the suburbs. From now on, I don't want to see you in my office ever again." "Victoria." I couldn't guess how Victoria would explain this to her parents. That evening, her mother called me, trying to persuade me patiently for a long time. Seeing that I wouldn't budge, she sighed and said, "Sincere, even though Victoria was wrong in this matter. Canceling the wedding at this critical moment is just too heartless of you." And she continued, Besides, if you break up with Victoria now, can you find someone better? Your current status, including your studio, isn't it all thanks to Victoria?" I had intended to speak reasonably, but since she insisted on using that condescending tone, she couldn't blame me for being blunt. Everything I have now, I earned through my own hard work. Victoria's success today is the result of our joint efforts. I practically built her acting career from the ground up. For you to say that is rather dismissive of my contributions." I cut off her impending words and continued, "Since you seem to think cheating isn't a big deal, I wish you pleasant future interactions with your husband's mistresses." She was enraged by my words and immediately started shouting curses. I didn't wait for her to finish. "I only heard and I was against you two being together from the start, and now you dare cause this kind of trouble for our family," before I decisively hung up and blocked her number. I knew perfectly well why she had initially opposed my relationship with Victoria. In her eyes, I was just a poor kid who didn't know the rules, refused to be subservient, and even dared to talk back to her. When Victoria first became famous, her mother wanted to place her useless relatives in the film crews as actors. Victoria didn't dare refuse herself, so she pushed me forward. I rejected the proposal without a second thought. So, when Victoria and I were planning to get married, her mother specifically sought me out for a talk, trying to put me in my place. 9. She demanded that I step back from the front lines after marriage and stop managing new talent. She claimed that a man constantly mingling in the entertainment industry would make outsiders think he was involved in shady dealings. She even said, "Who knew if I wouldn't use networking events as an excuse to hook up with some actress and cheat on her daughter?" I had coldly replied, "What thinking is too futile? What era are we living in?" She ran to Victoria to complain, saying I disrespected her. I asked Victoria pointedly, "Am I that stupid? To offend my future mother-in-law before even getting married?" After hearing my explanation, Victoria probably understood the whole situation. So, after we got legally married, we lived in my apartment, keeping a distance from her mother. This wasn't Victoria favoring me. She just didn't want to get caught in the middle of conflicts between her mother and me, or rather she knew very well that even 10 of her mothers couldn't control my stubborn nature. I had hoped Victoria and I could part amicably. We were both adults. There was no need to make things ugly. However, I clearly overestimated Victoria's character, or perhaps all these years I never truly knew the real Victoria. The day after I blocked her mother, she actually demanded that I leave with nothing, including my shares in the studio. She even wanted me to return the ownership rights to the studio premises, which had been awarded to me for managing her career so successfully. After stating these terms, she softened her tone over the phone. "And sincere, if you're willing to reconsider our relationship, the wedding can proceed as planned, and these conditions are negotiable." It finally dawned on me why she was so desperate to salvage the relationship. Once we broke up, her image in the entertainment industry would inevitably suffer, and the career heights she had reached might plummet. After all, I had single-handedly built her acting career. Besides a pretty face, she hadn't contributed much else. Moreover, we were planning her launch into the international market. I was leading that project. She couldn't bear to lose me, her best manager. But for Victoria to actually say such things, I didn't know if she'd lost her mind or thought I was an idiot. She even tried to persuade me to sincere in this industry. How many people keep mistresses, or even have separate lives after marriage? "Others manage just fine, don't they?" I asked sarcastically. "So you're suggesting I should go find a beautiful actress to fool around with too?" She was speechless for a moment. After a long pause, she said, "Said I will completely cut ties with Ethan. Ha, what a typical hypocrite. She could never cut ties cleanly with Ethan. The reason she abandoned me a few days ago to go find Ethan was that he had threatened to kill himself at his concert. This suicide threat was even packaged very artistically by Ethan. The caption he wrote on social media was overly sentimental and contrived. "Losing you, I will lose all inspiration to create." 10. This really proved the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I blocked him directly. Seeing too much of this kind of drama is just annoying. The wedding was off. Victoria only announced publicly that it was temporarily postponed. She strongly refused my proposal for an amicable separation. I had no choice but to hire a lawyer and take legal action, directly filing for divorce. This move finally panicked her. She humbled herself and came to me, unsincere. I really wasn't thinking straight that day. Ethan said he would kill himself at the concert venue, and I had been drinking. That's why I did something so foolish. I chose silence. From then on, she started staging various embarrassing displays of deep affection at my doorstep. The funny thing was, because I had blocked him, Ethan couldn't update me on his progress with Victoria anymore, so he found other ways to disgust me. One night, working late, Victoria came to wait for me again. This time I noticed fresh, suggestive marks on her neck. Even pretending to be devoted was done so carelessly. She really was disappointing. I pointed at the obvious marks. "Is this what you call cutting ties completely with Ethan?" Victoria was speechless. I sneered, "Victoria, stop acting. I never forgive cheating." For the next half-month, Victoria finally disappeared. Probably went off to argue with Ethan. Sure enough, not long after, Ethan sent me a private message, and "Sincere Clark, why don't you just die?" I replied calmly. Looks like the suicide threat tactic didn't work. He probably couldn't persuade Victoria to divorce me and was getting anxious. He asked to meet me at the coffee shop downstairs from my company, saying he had important matters to discuss. I initially wanted to refuse outright, but then I thought I might as well see what kind of tricks this guy could pull. So I went. He started spilling the beans. Victoria claimed her reunion with Ethan was an accident, a drunken mistake. The truth was, Ethan returning to the city over a year ago was entirely orchestrated by Victoria. Victoria specifically went to the city where he was living and actively sought him out. He said smugly, "Shen, guess what Victoria said back then?" Then answered himself, since she said not being with me was the biggest regret of her life. If she could do it over, she would give up everything she has now just to choose me. He laughed triumphantly. He framed a transaction of mutual benefit as pure emotion. I was already agitated. Learning that Victoria had been cheating on me for over a year threw my mind into further chaos. 11. Seeing his smug face infuriated me. I fired off questions. "And so has Victoria gone public with you now? If she truly loves you, why did she get legally married to me? Since it's true love, why is she still desperately refusing to divorce me now?" The smugness instantly vanished from his face. I continued, "Oh, you just want to leech off her fame to climb up. She's just got a bit of novelty interest in you, or maybe she's obsessed with what she couldn't have. This kind of shameful relationship is disgusting even to dogs, yet you manage to romanticize it as some kind of deep feeling." Ethan was speechless. He became agitated. "Sincere, why won't you let go?" I looked at him coldly. And being the third party and still acting so righteous, quite an eye-opener. "Don't provoke me, or I'll make sure you have no future in the entertainment industry." And thinking it wasn't enough to vent my anger, I added another blow. "Let me tell you the truth. Victoria has calculated everything clearly now. She thinks you're just a burden who will only drag down her career, so she wants to dump you. Her coming to me is her own choice, not because I'm clinging to her. If you really have the ability, hurry up and get her to agree to the divorce. Every day I'm stuck in this relationship makes me sick." His face instantly turned pale. Aha, just a waste of space relying on a woman to get ahead. I offered some friendly advice. Instead of wasting time here, maybe think about how to win over your future mother-in-law. Just as I finished speaking, I saw Isabel standing at the doorway. I didn't know how long she'd been listening. Her expression was complicated as she said, You have incredible patience." If it were me, I would have slapped him twice already to wake him up. I glanced at her. This is the internet age. Getting physical means feeding the tabloids and damaging the company's image. Isabel looked thoughtful. "You're right, I have shares in the company too. Can't be impulsive." I was speechless. Isabel insisted on taking me out to eat, clearly just wanting to dig for gossip. She even invoked her shareholder status. I need to know the details of this. You're the soul of the company. If things end badly between you and Victoria, I need to prepare a backup plan. Me," she continued. I invested mainly because I saw how you work like crazy. Figured it would definitely make money. My dad even said I was too impulsive, afraid I'd get scammed. Yeah, Isabel was a rich second generation, unwilling to just live off her inheritance, determined to make it on her own. 12. Isabel was right. To get her on board initially, I had accompanied this wealthy heiress through 3 rounds of heavy drinking before finally securing her investment. Nearly a month had passed. I had kept everything about Victoria and Ethan bottled up, not mentioning it to anyone. Now I couldn't hold it in anymore, and poured everything out to Isabel. Even Victoria's comment about plenty of people in the industry keeping lovers came out. After hearing everything, Isabel directly criticized me. "Oni need to cure this love sickness." What Victoria did basically signals she doesn't want to stay in this business anymore. Who couldn't see that? If Victoria still wanted a foothold in the industry, she should have let me go long ago. She wouldn't have dared to threaten me with leaving penniless, knowing I held leverage against her. Seeing my grim expression, Isabel tried to console me. Don't let her lead you by the nose. While there are some people with bad character in the industry, not everyone is like that. The conflict between Victoria and me had become so tense. Although the reason for the wedding cancellation wasn't public, the studio still suffered. In just 1 month, 3 popular artists I had personally nurtured left as soon as their contracts expired. They were all worried about whether the studio would change drastically after our breakup. People in the industry are sharp, nobody wants to step on a landmine. And just like that, Victoria showed up again. As soon as she saw me, she started questioning me accusingly. "Unsincere, even if we're divorcing, you shouldn't take it out on the studio. You poured your heart and soul into it too." Me? Putting aside the fact that I hadn't touched the studio, how could she completely forget about demanding I leave penniless just a month ago? Why were the studio's losses my problem? I looked at her with a cold smile. "Have you been hanging around mad dogs for too long? Learn to bite anyone you see?" Victoria, having known me for 10 years, Victoria understood my personality to some extent. Seeing me retort so righteously, she knew I hadn't been sabotaging her behind her back. She lowered her voice. "Sincere, I'm sorry." Then she started spewing a bunch of soft words, admitting fault, trying to coax me, all just to get me to intervene and retain those artists. I slammed the divorce agreement in front of her. "Want my help? Sign this first, stop bothering me, and maybe I'll consider it." Victoria, she knew my personality too well. Being vindictive was my standard operating procedure. If we actually divorced, forget helping her negotiate renewals, I'd be more likely to open a competing company specifically to poach her talent. So this time, she refused again. But I knew it wouldn't be long before she came begging for a divorce herself. 13. A month at most. Because Ethan sent another provocative text, "Sincere, your days of smugness are almost over. I will definitely make Victoria divorce you." He had reason to be arrogant. Victoria was pregnant with his child and planned to use it to solidify her position. Moreover, this guy was incredibly good at ingratiating himself. He had already charmed Victoria's mother completely. He played the obedient son-in-law in front of the old lady, letting her indulge her loving mother complex. This tactic alone was far more effective than my stubborn refusal to be controlled. Now with the baby, Victoria's mother was overjoyed and completely on his side. Thanks to him, he finally did something useful. Sure enough, it didn't take long. Half a month later, Victoria proactively came to discuss the divorce. But she shamelessly still wanted me to leave with nothing. She said, "Sincere, since you insist on divorcing, unless you leave with nothing, I will never agree. The most I can let you keep is that apartment." She even pretended to be considerate. "Don't you want a clean break from me? If you don't give up the studio shares, won't we still be entangled?" Watching her discuss terms with such a cold expression, I suddenly realized that any feelings I had for her vanished completely in that moment. Turns out I had never really known her. I gave her my "Are you an idiot?" look again. "Did a donkey kick you in the head?" She suppressed her anger. "Sincere," I sneered. "If a donkey didn't kick you, why does your talk sound like your brain's broken?" Seeing she was about to explode, I spoke first. "Victoria, since discovering your affair until now, I haven't said a single bad word about you to the media, nor have I exposed your cheating. Do you think if I wanted to play dirty, leak your scandals to the press, your career would still be intact?" "Victoria," I raged. "Once you have some nerve cheating behind my back and still demanding I leave with nothing?" The more I thought, the angrier I got. Might as well drop all pretenses. Either we part ways amicably, or don't blame me for playing rough. Tomorrow I'll have the media expose that you cheated on your husband, got pregnant with another man's child, and are now trying to force your CO founding husband out penniless. Since you two have no shame, I don't mind dragging us all through the mud together. Victoria. She was visibly shocked, likely stunned that I even knew about her pregnancy. 14. If the divorce case hadn't dragged on for so long, with Victoria constantly pulling tricks, I wouldn't even have bothered seeing her. It was utterly disgusting. Divorce truly reveals a person's character. After a month-long tug-of-war, this farce finally ended. After the divorce, I continued to serve as a manager at the studio. She probably worried I'd use my resources to suppress her or do things detrimental to her. She took the opportunity to carry out a major reshuffle at the studio, bringing in all those relatives her mother had previously tried to force in just to annoy me and monitor my every move. After doing all that, she wasn't satisfied and simply proposed to acquire my shares in the studio. That suited me perfectly. I didn't want any connection with her either. Besides, the way she was running things, the studio was bound to go downhill soon. She was self-destructing, and I didn't want to go down with her. Moreover, I had originally planned to open a second studio with her. Now, well, I was going to do it myself. So I demanded a price 3 times higher than the market value. Victoria haggled with me for several rounds because the price was too high, but eventually gritted her teeth and agreed. Actually, I hadn't done much. I just had someone analyze the situation for Ethan. If Victoria and I continued to interact frequently after the divorce due to studio matters, he would become an insignificant supporting character. It would cement my place in Victoria's heart, making me unforgettable. After all, human nature is like that. What you can't have is always the most enticing. He knew this situation better than anyone, having experienced it himself. Besides, Victoria's mother had taken her to calculate the conception date of the baby, confirming it wasn't mine. Ethan constantly used this child as leverage, throwing tantrums at Victoria. Every time I met with Victoria about studio business, he would throw a fit. One day they had a huge argument at the studio. Ethan questioned, "If you really don't want anything to do with Sincere anymore, why can't you make a clean break? Are you planning to do what you did before Marry Me but stay entangled with Sincere?" Victoria was furious. "I'm married to you now. What more do you want?" Ethan countered sharply. "Isn't that exactly how you treated me before?" Ha! This man who successfully climbed the ladder was quite alert. Victoria was so angered she nearly suffered complications with her pregnancy and was hospitalized. Later, for the sake of the baby, she had no choice but to accept my exorbitant price. Thus, 3 months after the divorce, I took my money and withdrew from the studio. To build my own business, I was too busy to even gossip about them. 15. 3 months later, one day, Isabel suddenly informed me she was withdrawing her shares too. She came to me proactively. "Heard you're going solo. Count me in. You're giving up such a good money-making opportunity?" I was a bit puzzled. Under my management, the studio had been doing quite well for the past 2 years. At least all the investors had recouped their initial capital. Wasn't this the perfect time to sit back and collect profits? Isabel scoffed. "Get out now or wait to lose money with them." I looked bewildered. Isabel explained. "Partnering with emotional people in business is a mistake. Sooner or later, they'll turn the company into a family enterprise, stuffing it with relatives who only cause trouble." I had thought Victoria brought in her mother's useless and troublesome relatives just to spite me. Looks like she had truly lost her mind. She even brought in Ethan's relatives and pushed out several managers I had trained. These two were truly my benefactors. I was originally feeling constrained by professional ethics, hesitant to poach those managers. Now they delivered them right to my doorstep. A little over 2 months later, the new company officially opened. On the opening night, the shareholders and senior executives celebrated together. Isabel not only became a shareholder herself, but also brought in 3 of her wealthy socialite friends. After a few drinks, she gave her friends a knowing look, raised her glass and said, "Sincere, let me introduce you to some high-quality single ladies, all top-tier catches. Since we're all in the same company, why not get to know each other better?" I rolled my eyes helplessly. She continued, "Don't think I'm meddling. Just work hard, and let me ride your coattails to riches. That's the best way you can repay me. Seriously, you money-grubbing machine, now you're worrying about my love life." She retorted righteously, "Oh, of course you're my biggest cash cow. Don't forget, as long as your career is successful, you can have your pick of great women. She patted my shoulder. Stay away from unreliable people, and your quality of life will instantly improve. Come on, let's toast to a bright future. I looked at her, speechless. I had to admit, Isabel had a point. Staying away from all that drama really did make life easier. Like now, 3 years later, I had just finished negotiating a major deal at a mall, only to see Ethan still arguing fiercely with Victoria. 16. I loved watching this kind of drama. If I wasn't afraid of missing the show, I'd grab a latte and savor it. Pausing for a moment, I roughly pieced together what happened. Ethan's cousin, Gregory Vance, started embezzling funds shortly after joining the studio, and the amount wasn't small. This was initially kept quiet. Even Victoria didn't know. The cousin planned to use the earnings from the next endorsement deal to cover the shortfall, but someone else snatched that deal away. Without the money to fill the hole, the matter inevitably came to light. Victoria investigated the missing funds and discovered Ethan's cousin had lost it all trading crypto. Victoria reported it to the police without hesitation. Now Ethan's cousin was behind bars. This cousin was Ethan's blood relative, which was why Ethan dared to make such a scene outside the studio. When it came to ruthlessness, few could match Victoria. So Ethan was there, berating Victoria for being heartless and lacking basic human decency. Victoria sneered, "Ethan, do you think I'm too easygoing? When you plotted against me, even involving my mother, why didn't you call me heartless then? But since I'm so unreasonable, let's just get a divorce. You can go wherever you want." Ethan was instantly silenced. Right, he had schemed so hard to push me out, finally securing the position of the award-winning actress's husband. If he divorced easily, who would fund his new songs? Victoria could be ruthless to me, she certainly wouldn't be kind to him. He didn't have the leverage I had back then. I turned to Isabel, who had accompanied me to the project meeting. "So no snatch the deal? I need to thank them properly." I had arranged to meet Isabel's mother today. Having Isabel present would smooth the negotiations. Isabel smiled. "Wasn't it you? That endorsement director Wang personally approached you for last month." In the 2 years since starting my own company, I had snatched quite a few of Victoria's resources to retaliate for her betrayal and coercion. Plus, Victoria had replaced many of the artists I trained, and many of her studio's former partners were poached by my team after their contracts expired. There were too many, I couldn't keep track. I scratched my head awkwardly. Oh, right. Then I should treat myself well. Isabel immediately seized the opportunity to extort me. "Don't forget my share. I was supposed to meet a blind date today, but you dragged me here for overtime. You owe me some compensation, right?" 17. I rolled my eyes. Senny helped you ditch a blind date you didn't want to go on, and you still have the nerve to ask me for compensation? Seriously? Isabel, Life is like a soap opera. It never pauses on a single frame. If you pay attention. Less than a month later, I went to the hospital for a cold and bumped into Ethan and Victoria's mother, Eleanor, fighting while holding the baby. Eleanor was accusing Ethan of being deceitful, claiming he lied to her and Victoria that the baby was his. But in reality, the child Victoria carried had no biological connection to Ethan. Of course, the child wasn't mine either. It was the result of Victoria getting drunk and involved with several male models. The biological father still hadn't been identified, so Ethan ended up being the one left holding the bag. Eleanor was even more vicious than Victoria when cursing someone out, picking the cruelest words. Ethan must have bottled up a lot of anger during this time and finally exploded. He retorted, "So you say I shamelessly took over as a kept man? Weren't you the other woman who broke up a marriage back in the day? What right do you have, you old witch, to criticize me?" Eleanor immediately started fighting with him and calling you out, you. "Pretty boy, third-rate singer. If it weren't for you, would my daughter have divorced Sincere to marry you, the cousin of a criminal? Make your family pay back the embezzled money, or you'll face the consequences." Ethan hit back where it hurt. "If you didn't want to be the Empress Dowager, would you have agreed so readily for Victoria to divorce Sincere and marry me?" You just couldn't control sincere, that's all. Me. Let me just say, thank you both." As they argued, Eleanor resorted to violence. She slapped Ethan hard across the face, leaving a clear red mark. She pushed him forcefully, cursing while she did. "Toe-kept man, how dare you talk back? Let me teach you a lesson today." Watching this made my stomach turn. I took out my phone, snapped photos, and then called the police. My current assistant was still the same cute girl, Chloe Miller, who had resigned from Victoria's studio to follow me. She knew the whole history between Victoria and me very well. Seeing my actions, she asked in surprise, "And Mr. Clark, such a juicy drama, and you're actually calling the police?" I shrugged. "Don't thank me. Call me a good Samaritan." Chloe sighed helplessly. "You give me a break, good Samaritan. The coffee I just bought has gone cold." The police station was right across from the hospital. They arrived in less than 5 minutes. Both were taken away. After they left, Chloe remarked, "It's a good thing you parted ways with Ms. Ashwood back then. Otherwise..." 18. Otherwise, the one getting hurt today wouldn't have been me. Eleanor dared to attack Ethan for 2 reasons. First, Ethan had been overly respectful to her from the beginning, making her feel superior. Second, Ethan had a guilty conscience, didn't dare mention divorce to Victoria, and certainly didn't dare to completely break ties with Eleanor. The fact that he didn't even fight back when hit speaks volumes. The next day, the entertainment industry's paparazzi, like cats smelling fish, eagerly exposed the incident. They included high-definition photos, clearly showing the marks on Ethan's face. I was the one who leaked the information. And so, the story of Eleanor Ashwood getting into a physical fight with her son-in-law and ending up at the police station instantly spread throughout the industry. I had warned him long ago not to make enemies everywhere before establishing a firm footing, but he wouldn't listen. Now, he had become the butt of jokes in the industry. Once this scandal broke, some enterprising media outlets dug up the inside story of Ethan interfering in my relationship with Victoria and forcing me out of the studio, publishing it all together to ride the wave of publicity. Netizens overwhelmingly condemned Ethan, saying he deserved it. Victoria's reputation plummeted along with his. After bashing the scummy couple, netizens didn't forget to send me their blessings. Mr. Clark, the manager, is so lucky to have escaped that dumpster fire in time. Me. Many thanks, everyone. I originally wanted to handle things quietly, but I didn't expect you all to take such a roundabout way to put me back in the spotlight. Misfortune never comes alone. 2 months later, just as Victoria's studio was in chaos, her career also hit a crisis. The studio's finances were a mess. Someone reported them for tax evasion, and authorities launched an investigation. I had predicted this decline back when Victoria replaced the managers I trained with her mother and Ethan's relatives. Her move was too reckless. Her studio was destined to fail. Plus, I occasionally snatched a few of her resources, but honestly, I didn't expect things to deteriorate so quickly. Hearing the news, Isabel clutched her chest and said, "Luckily, my judgment was sharp. I got out early. Ever since she replaced the finance director with her mother's niece, I knew she was playing with fire," and offered a perfunctory compliment, "And you really are astute." Isabel didn't back down, and likewise, smart people know. As for who reported them, we both knew implicitly but pretended ignorance. After this storm, Victoria's studio rapidly collapsed. Her acting career was implicated, and multiple brands terminated their contracts with her. This allowed me to take over many resources that were originally hers, making a hefty profit. Even though Victoria took remedial measures, clearing out her mother and Ethan's relatives from the studio and making a large donation of $5 million to a rural elementary school, it was futile. 19. Netizens mocked her, calling it an act, and some bluntly questioned whether the source of the donation money was clean. Victoria's stardom thus came to an end. This reminded me of years ago when I first started managing her. She faced a major crisis back then, too. Her resources completely dried up. She even considered quitting and returning to a normal life. It was me who accompanied her, running around looking for opportunities. During those days, we were either auditioning or on the way to auditions. I endured countless dismissive looks and cold shoulders alongside her. When we finally overcame that hurdle, she told me, "Sincere, thank goodness I have you. When I become famous, you'll be my most important manager." What a pity. When she actually became famous, not only did she toss that promise aside, but she also schemed to take away everything that should have been mine. Some people are destined only to share sweetness, but not hardship. Victoria was one of them, but perhaps it was for the best. She and Ethan had enjoyed their sweet times. Now it was time for them to taste bitterness, see if it could deepen their relationship. I remembered Victoria once solemnly promised Ethan she would rather give up her current fame to be with him, to marry him. Now that her career was tanking, she was, in a way, fulfilling that promise through her actions. On that point, at least, she managed to keep her word. I had even thought that if they genuinely came to me for help together, considering the depth of their feelings, I might show some mercy and compete less fiercely with Victoria for resources in the future. But it seemed Ethan had no intention of weathering the storm with Victoria. Less than 6 months later, the two started divorce proceedings. Ethan spread rumors everywhere, claiming he couldn't stand living with his malicious mother-in-law anymore and didn't even dare to get a paternity test. In reality, it was because Victoria's studio was about to go bankrupt, and Ethan didn't want to bear her debts without getting any benefits. Even more ironically, while the divorce was ongoing, Ethan cheated on Victoria with a wealthier woman. Seeing this news, I was stunned. This could only be called karma. Thinking about it, it made sense. Their relationship was fundamentally a transaction, merely dressed up as passionate love. Ethan was initially interested in Victoria's wealth. Since money was the goal, it was logical for him, while still young and handsome, to find a more powerful benefactor. Can't really blame him. I just hoped Victoria could hold on. Unfortunately, things didn't go as hoped. Victoria couldn't hold on. 3 months after Ethan's infidelity, the studio finally couldn't sustain itself and declared bankruptcy. At this point, I had to admit Victoria still had some cunning. Even though Ethan betrayed her, she endured it and didn't divorce immediately. Because they had bought 2 luxury properties in their joint names after marriage, divorcing would mean giving one up. 20. Therefore, when the company declared bankruptcy, Ethan was partly responsible for her nearly $50 million debt. That wealthy benefactor immediately distanced herself, completely unwilling to pay off Ethan's debts. Scrolling through my phone and seeing this news, I couldn't resist typing a comment, "And scumbag couple serves them right." I heard that in the end, Victoria had to sell her luxurious downtown apartment, the twin villas purchased under both their names, plus several limited edition luxury sports cars just to barely clear the debt. This brought her right back to where she started. No, her situation was even worse now. Not only did she have to support her parents and take care of her child, but she was also stuck with a husband who cheated on her. And critically, she was past the prime age for the entertainment industry. I wondered if she could fight her way back up like she did years ago. Whatever, it had nothing to do with me anymore. Her failure wasn't entirely my doing. If she hadn't insisted on stuffing her mother and Ethan's gang of talentless, clout-chasing relatives into the studio, even with me snatching a few endorsements, she wouldn't have crashed and burned so quickly. Epilogue: Fate enjoys playing tricks. I thought I'd never cross paths with Victoria again in this lifetime, but things rarely go as planned. Attending Isabel's wedding, I unexpectedly ran into her at the hotel. It turned out Victoria was working as an MC at this hotel. Looks like she gave up on returning to the entertainment industry. How does it feel to meet an ex again? Looking at the woman before me, dressed in a professional suit but unable to hide her exhaustion, my heart was calm as still water, as if she were just a stranger I happened upon. No love, no resentment. Victoria stared at me for a long time before finally speaking, and sincere about the past. "I'm very sorry." I pulled a smile. Let's not talk about that. If anyone should apologize, it's me. I didn't even offer congratulations back then. Let me make up for it today. May you and Ethan be blessed with eternal love and happiness together." Victoria's expression instantly turned ugly. She probably didn't feel good hearing that. But wasn't this the path she chose herself? I added another jab. "And now you've experienced the ordinary life married to Ethan. You finally fulfilled your dream from back then. That's good too." Victoria,